I thought I understood risk after 30 years on Wall Street. But when Christiana stood up in the middle of my 60th birthday dinner last Saturday and said, "James, you're insane, and I'm not watching you destroy this family anymore," I felt something inside me flatline, like a heart monitor going silent. "What do you mean, destroy?" I asked, still holding the knife we were supposed to use to cut the cake. She wouldn't look at the guests, wouldn't look at me. "You drained our retirement, James. Every penny. The kids know. Everyone knows what you did. Drained." That word settled over the room like ash. The guests, our neighbors, her book club friends, even my own daughter were staring at their plates. "Christiana, we talked about this." "No," she cut me off, using that voice, the one she'd been using for 6 months. Firm but brittle, like she was talking down a jumper from a ledge. "We didn't talk. You announced. You told me you were moving money around for optimization, and then I found out you bet our entire future on some algorithm that doesn't even exist." "It exists," I said quietly. She laughed. Actually laughed. "David at the club told me these trading bots are scams, James. His brother lost everything to one. You've been locked in that office for 18 months, writing code no one can verify, spending money we don't have on servers, on data feeds, on this fantasy." Her voice cracked. "Mia thinks you need help?" "Professional help." Mia was our daughter, 32, a corporate attorney. Smart, rational. If she thought I'd lost it, that meant something. "I was trying to build something," I said. "You were trying to prove something," Christiana corrected. "And you've proven it. You've proven you care more about being right than about us." She picked up her purse. "There's a suitcase by the door. I need you out by morning." The guests started making excuses. Early meetings, babysitters, long drives. Within 10 minutes, our dining room was empty, except for 60 candles melting into vanilla frosting. I sat there, looking at the woman I'd married in 1990. We'd met at a charity gala in Manhattan, built an empire together, her in corporate law, me in quantitative analysis. We'd survived the dot-com crash, the 2008 crisis, raised Mia in Greenwich, bought the summer house in the Hamptons. I'd retired early to pursue what everyone called day trading. But what I knew was different. I'd found something, a pattern in Asian market volatility that no one else could see. I'd built an algorithm that could predict micro-corrections in the Hang Seng with 94.7% accuracy. But I couldn't explain it to anyone who hadn't spent 3 decades reading market data like poetry. "So that's it?" I asked. 34 years and you're kicking me out on my birthday?" "It's not forever," she said, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. "Just until you get help, or until you admit this was a mistake." That night, I sat alone in my study while Christiana slept upstairs or pretended to sleep. The house was silent except for the hum of my servers in the closet. I pulled up the algorithm's dashboard. The countdown timer read 2 hours, 47 minutes until Hong Kong opening bell. I thought about all the birthdays before this one. The surprise party for my 40th. The weekend in Napa for my 50th. Christiana's toast at my retirement dinner. To the smartest man I know who's finally going to have time to enjoy life. This wasn't how I'd imagined enjoying it. I watched the last car pull out of the driveway through the window of my study. The Hendersons. They'd practically sprinted to their Lexus, clutching their coats like refugees fleeing a war zone. I didn't blame them. Nobody wants to witness a marriage detonate over birthday cake. Christiana's heels clicked on the hardwood floor behind me. I'd know that sound anywhere, the deliberate pace she used when she was building a case. 34 years of marriage had taught me to recognize her courtroom walk even in our own home. "We need to talk," she said. "I thought we just did that, in front of everyone." She ignored that. Of course she did. Christiana had perfected the art of selective hearing back when she was making junior partner at Whitmore and Associates. "Do you have any idea what you've done, James? Any concept of the magnitude?" I turned to face her. She was still in the black dress she'd worn for the party, the one I'd always loved. Now it just looked like funeral attire. I know exactly what I've done. Really? She pulled out her phone, swiping until she found what she wanted. Because our financial advisor doesn't think you do. Neither does our accountant. I had them both run the numbers after I found out what you'd been moving around. She held up the screen like evidence in a trial. $473,000, James. That was our retirement. Our safety net. Our future. It's an investment. It's gambling. Her voice cracked on the last word. You took everything we'd saved for 30 years and fed it into some computer program that nobody, not David's brother who works in fintech, not the consultant. I paid $300 an hour to review your algorithm nobody can verify actually works. Because they don't understand the mathematics. No, James. Because it doesn't exist. Not in any real, tangible, provable way. She sat down on the leather chair across from my desk, the fight draining out of her voice. Mia called me last week. She's worried. She says you've been obsessive, secretive, talking about patterns that no one else can see. Do you know what that sounds like? I did. It sounded like madness. It sounded like every crackpot who'd ever blown their life savings on a sure thing. The therapist I called said these fixations are common in men facing retirement, Christiana continued. The need to prove something, to have one more win. She said, You called a therapist about me? Of course I did. What else was I supposed to do? Watch you destroy us? She stood up. The money's gone, James. Our friends know. Our daughter thinks you're having a breakdown. And you still can't admit you made a mistake. She walked to the door, paused with her hand on the frame. The suitcase is by the front door. I meant what I said. Then she was gone, and I was alone with the hum of my servers and the weight of everyone's certainty that I'd lost my mind. If you hate it when people humiliate their partners in public instead of talking privately, hit that subscribe button. Comment, loyalty matters, if you refuse to side with toxic behavior like Christiana's. I locked the study door and pulled up the main dashboard on my center monitor. 3 screens glowed in the darkness. Bloomberg terminal on the left, my proprietary code on the right, and in the middle, the algorithm itself. 18 months of work reduced to lines of Python and mathematical models that would either validate everything or confirm I'd actually lost my mind. The algorithm wasn't magic. That's what nobody seemed to understand. It was pattern recognition at a scale the human brain couldn't process. But computers could. I'd discovered it by accident, really. 2 years ago, during one of those insomniac nights that had become routine after retirement, I'd been analyzing correlation data between the Hang Seng Index and after-hours trading in Seoul. Most analysts ignored the micro-movements, the tiny price corrections that happened in the 60-second windows between major institutional trades. They were considered noise, random fluctuations. But they weren't random. I'd found a pattern. When certain tech stocks dipped in Hong Kong by specific percentages, not round numbers, but precise fractional movements like 0.47% or 0.63%. There was a corresponding spike in Seoul exactly 17 seconds later, every single time. The correlation was 94.7% over 3,000 test cases. It was beautiful. Mathematical poetry that nobody else could see because they weren't looking at the right intervals, the right stocks, the right time windows. So I built the bot. Started small with my own trading account, $10,000. Turned it into $43,000 in 6 weeks. Then I got ambitious. I needed more capital to make it worthwhile, to prove the model could scale. That's when I'd started moving our retirement funds, bit by bit, into the offshore trading account I'd set up through a firm in Singapore. Christiana thought I was rebalancing our portfolio, optimizing for tax purposes. She'd signed the forms without reading them because she trusted me. Because in 34 years, I'd never given her a reason not to. The algorithm needed one thing to work: volatility. And volatility required scale. I couldn't prove the model with pocket change. I needed real money to generate real returns, the kind of returns that would shut up every doubter, every consultant, every concerned friend who'd looked at me like I was building a doomsday device in my basement. The servers hummed in the closet behind me. $12,000 a month in cloud computing costs, data feeds from 6 different exchanges, redundant systems in case of failure. David from the country club called it a scam. The consultant Christiana hired called it unverifiable. Mia called it obsessive. I called it certainty. The countdown timer on my screen read 1 hour, 52 minutes until Hong Kong opening bell. In less than 2 hours, the algorithm would execute its largest trade sequence, $473,000, leveraged at a 3-to-1 margin, across 47 different micro positions timed to the second. Either I was right, or I'd just destroyed everything I'd ever built. Many people called James crazy, just like they doubted every great inventor. If you believe in trusting your gut, even when no one else understands, hit like right now. The call with Mia had come 3 weeks ago. I could still hear the careful concern in her voice, the tone she probably used with her more fragile clients at the firm. Dad, Mom told me about the money. I'd been in the study, naturally. Where else would I be? The algorithm was in beta testing phase, executing small trades to calibrate the timing sequences. It's an investment, sweetheart. A good one. Dad. She'd paused, and in that silence I could hear her choosing her words like a lawyer selecting evidence. $400,000 isn't an investment. It's our entire family's safety net. And you moved it without really discussing it with Mom. I discussed it. You told her you were rebalancing the portfolio. That's not the same thing as saying, I'm betting our retirement on a trading bot I built in my study. The way she said trading bot made it sound like a toy. Like I'd been playing video games instead of solving equations that would make most MIT graduates weep. It's more sophisticated than that, Mia. The mathematics alone. I don't need the mathematics, Dad. I need you to hear how this sounds. Her voice had softened, gone gentle. That's when I knew she'd been talking to her mother, coordinating. You've been locked in that room for 18 months. You don't go to the club anymore. You missed Emma's engagement party last month. You barely come out for dinner. I've been working. On something nobody can verify. Dad, I showed your white paper to Trevor's friend who works at Goldman. He said the correlation you're claiming is statistically impossible. He said the patterns you're seeing. She'd stopped herself. He said what? He said sometimes when people are under stress, when they're facing major life transitions like retirement, they can develop fixations. They see patterns that aren't really there. It's a known psychological phenomenon called apophenia. I'd looked it up after we hung up. Apophenia, the tendency to perceive meaningful connections between unrelated things. The same thing they diagnosed in conspiracy theorists and people who saw Jesus in their toast. I'm not seeing patterns that aren't there, Mia. Then show someone. A real trading firm. Get it peer-reviewed. If it works like you say it does, they'd pay millions for it. Her voice had cracked slightly. But Dad, if you can't prove it to anyone, if every expert who looks at it says it's wrong, then maybe it's time to talk to someone. Professionally. You think I'm crazy. I think you're my father, and I love you, and I'm scared. She'd been crying. I could hear it. Mom's scared too. We just want you back. I never left. Yes, you did. About 18 months ago, you disappeared into that study, and somebody else came out. Somebody we don't recognize. She'd hung up before I could explain that I hadn't disappeared. I'd finally, for the first time in my life, seen something clearly that nobody else could see. And that's the loneliest feeling in the world. I heard her moving around upstairs around 11. Dresser drawers opening and closing. The closet door sliding on its track. The sounds of someone making a decision they'd probably been rehearsing for months. When I finally emerged from the study at 11:30, the suitcase was waiting for me in the foyer. My old Toomey roller bag, the one I'd used for business trips back when I still had a business to travel for. She'd packed it carefully. I could tell by the way it sat evenly on its wheels. Christiana was thorough even in exile. I found her in the kitchen, wiping down counters that were already clean. Busy work. The kind of thing she did when she needed her hands occupied so they wouldn't shake. Christiana. She didn't look up. Just kept wiping in small, precise circles. I meant what I said, James. I know you did. I can't do this anymore. I can't watch you destroy yourself and take us down with you. The dishcloth stilled in her hand. 34 years. I've stood by you through everything. The market crashes, the career changes, the risks. But this isn't a risk. This is delusion. It's not. Then prove it. She finally looked at me, and I saw something in her face I'd never seen before. Not anger, not even disappointment. Finality. Show me one person, one qualified, credentialed expert who says your algorithm works. Just one. I couldn't. Every expert she'd consulted, every professional I'd tried to explain it to, they all saw the same thing. An aging man obsessed with numbers that didn't add up to anyone but him. That's what I thought. She folded the dishcloth with precise corners, set it on the counter. I packed you a week's worth of clothes, your medication, your phone charger. There's a Marriott off exit 47 that takes extended stays. You've researched hotels. I've been preparing for this conversation for 2 months, James, ever since I found out what you'd really done with our money. She walked past me toward the stairs, then stopped. I meant what I said at dinner. This doesn't have to be forever, but I need you out of this house. I need space to think without looking at those servers and that haunted look on your face every time the market opens. Haunted? You're either going to be right or you're going to lose everything, and I can't stand here watching you wait for the verdict anymore. It's killing me. Her voice finally broke. You chose this algorithm over us, over me. You chose being right over being happy. I chose our future. No, James, you chose your ego. She started up the stairs, paused halfway. You have until morning. I'm going to bed. Please be gone when I wake up. I stood in the foyer looking at that suitcase. In 34 years of marriage, we'd never spent a night apart except for business travel. Now, she was asking me to leave our home, our life, because she couldn't believe what I knew to be mathematically certain. The clock on the wall read 11:47 p.m., 13 minutes until midnight. 13 minutes until everything changed. Christiana is ready to kick him out at his lowest point. If you believe a spouse should stick by you through worse and not just better, comment. I stand for commitment below. I sat in the study with a glass of Macallan I'd poured with shaking hands. The suitcase was still in the foyer. I hadn't moved it. Hadn't even touched it. Moving it would make this real, and I wasn't ready for that yet. The algorithm dashboard glowed on the center screen. 47 micro-positions queued and ready. The execution sequence would trigger automatically at 12:01 a.m. Eastern, 9:01 a.m. in Hong Kong. The bot would fire off trades in rapid succession, each one timed to catch those 17-second windows I'd spent 2 years mapping. My cursor hovered over the emergency shutdown protocol. 1 click. That's all it would take. Abort the sequence. Liquidate the positions back to cash. Wire the money back to our retirement account. I'd lose maybe $30,000 in fees and spread, but I'd still have $440,000 left, enough to salvage the marriage, enough to prove to Christiana I could admit when I was wrong. Except I wasn't wrong. I'd run the simulations 11,000 times. Back-tested against 15 years of market data. The correlation held. It always held. The pattern was there, mathematical and pure, indifferent to human doubt. But what if I'd missed something? What if there was a variable I hadn't accounted for, some black swan event, some regulatory change, some fundamental shift in market mechanics that would render my entire model obsolete? I took a drink. The scotch burned going down. Upstairs, I could hear water running, Christiana getting ready for bed. Our bed. The one I might never sleep in again if I was wrong about this. She'd said it didn't have to be forever, but I knew better. Some divorces started with arguments and affairs. Others started with a spouse who chose their obsession over their family. 11:23 p.m. I pulled up my email. 47 unread messages, most from the past week. Subject lines I'd been ignoring. Concerned about you, Dad, from Emma. We should talk, from Trevor. Intervention options from someone Christiana must have CC'd me on by accident. An intervention. They'd actually discussed staging an intervention, like I was an addict. Maybe I was. Addicted to being right. Addicted to the elegant certainty of mathematics in a world that had become increasingly uncertain since retirement. Addicted to the quiet hum of servers and the clean logic of code that didn't argue or doubt or call you insane at your own birthday party. 11:47 p.m. My hand was still on the mouse. The shutdown button was right there. I could end this. Go upstairs, wake Christiana, tell her I'd liquidated everything. Tell her she was right and I was sorry and I'd make an appointment with the therapist on Monday. I could choose my marriage over my certainty. The cursor blinked. The countdown timer read 14 minutes. I moved my hand away from the mouse, picked up my glass instead, and watched the seconds tick down on the clock. Either I was about to prove everyone wrong, or I was about to lose everything that mattered. There was no middle ground anymore. 12:01 a.m. The algorithm executed. I watched the trade log populate in real time, each micro position firing exactly as programmed. 47 transactions in 93 seconds. The servers in the closet hummed louder, processing terabytes of market data, measuring those 17-second windows with atomic precision. Then my phone lit up on the desk. Mia's name flashed across the screen. My stomach dropped. She never called this late, never. The last time my phone rang after midnight was when her grandfather died. I stared at it, paralyzed. She must have talked to her mother. Christiana must have told her about the ultimatum, about the suitcase in the foyer, and now Mia was calling to add her voice to the chorus. One more person telling me I'd lost my mind. The phone buzzed again. Not a call. A text. Dad, what the hell is on the news? I frowned at the screen. The news? It was past midnight. What news could possibly... My email notification dinged. Then, again. Then, a third time in rapid succession. My phone started buzzing continuously, texts coming in faster than I could read them. Trevor. Dad, call me right now. Emma. Is this real? A number I didn't recognize. Mr. Gunner, this is Patricia Chen from your brokerage firm. We need to speak immediately regarding unusual account activity. My hands were shaking as I pulled up the trading dashboard. The positions had closed, all 47 of them. I scrolled to the account balance, certain I'd see zeros, certain the algorithm had failed, and I was looking at financial ruin. I blinked, refreshed the page. The number didn't change. 12,347,883. The algorithm had worked. Not just worked, it had exceeded every projection. The micro positions had caught a volatility spike in the Hang Seng that my model had predicted to the percentage point. The sole correlation had fired exactly 17 seconds later, just like it always did. Just like I knew it would. My phone rang. Mia again. I answered with a voice that didn't sound like mine. Dad, CNBC just ran a story about unusual trading activity in Asian markets. They're saying someone made $12 million in 90 seconds on some kind of high-frequency algorithm nobody's ever seen before. She was breathless, talking fast. Dad, was that you? Please tell me that was you. I looked at the screen. At the number that had just validated 18 months of isolation. 18 months of everyone thinking I was crazy. Yeah, I said quietly. That was me. She screamed. Actually screamed with joy on the other end of the line. Oh my God. Oh my God, Dad. I'm calling Mom right now. Don't move. Don't go anywhere. She hung up before I could tell her that her mother had already asked me to leave. I sat there in the blue glow of my monitors, looking at 12 million reasons why I'd been right all along. Upstairs, I heard footsteps, fast ones. Christiana had heard her phone buzz too. The tables just turned. If you love seeing the underdog prove all the haters and bullies wrong, smash that subscribe button right now. I didn't sleep. How could I? The phone hadn't stopped ringing since 12:07 a.m. First it was Mia, then Trevor, then Emma, calling separately and then all together on a conference call, their voices overlapping with questions I couldn't answer because I was still trying to process it myself. Then came the professionals. My brokerage firm, my bank, a compliance officer from the SEC wanting to verify the trades were legitimate, a reporter from Bloomberg who somehow got my personal number. By 6 a.m., I'd received 43 calls and stopped answering around number 30. I made coffee in the study using the small Keurig I'd installed months ago so I wouldn't have to leave during trading hours. My hands had finally stopped shaking, but everything felt surreal, like I was watching my life happen to someone else. The bedroom door opened upstairs. I heard Christiana's footsteps, slower than usual. She hadn't come down last night after Mia called her. I'd heard her on the phone for nearly an hour, her voice muffled through the floor, but she'd stayed in the bedroom. Processing. Probably. Or refusing to believe it. I walked out to the living room and turned on CNBC. Might as well get this over with. The anchor was mid-sentence when the screen came into focus. Unprecedented algorithmic trading pattern that caught the attention of regulators overnight. Sources say a private trader executed a series of micro-positions across Asian markets that generated returns of nearly $12 million in under 2 minutes. They cut to a market analyst, some guy with gray hair and an expensive suit. What's remarkable here is the precision. This wasn't luck. Whoever built this algorithm understood market mechanics at a level we rarely see outside of institutional players. The question now is whether this represents a new form of high-frequency trading that regulators need to examine. Christiana appeared at the bottom of the stairs in her robe, phone in her hand. She'd been crying, I could see it in her eyes, but whether from relief or something else, I couldn't tell. She looked at me, then at the TV, then back at me. "It's real," she said quietly. Not a question. A statement of fact she was still trying to accept. "It's real," the anchor continued. The trader's identity hasn't been confirmed, but sources close to the situation suggest it may be a former Wall Street analyst working independently from... Christiana sat down on the couch, her legs seeming to give out beneath her. She stared at the screen where my entire vindication was playing out in cable news graphics and expert analysis. "I packed your suitcase," she whispered. "I know. I called you insane. In front of everyone. I know that too." Her phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced at it, then set it face down on the coffee table. "That's David from the club. He's the 7th person who's called this morning asking if it's true. If my husband is the one they're talking about on the news." I didn't say anything, just watched the number $12.4 million scroll across the bottom of the screen. "What do I tell them?" she asked, and for the first time since the party, she looked genuinely lost. She turned off the TV with the remote, and the sudden silence felt heavier than all the noise. "James, She stopped, composed herself, back in lawyer mode, choosing her words carefully. "I need to apologize. Last night I was scared, terrified actually. I thought we were losing everything. I stayed standing, kept my distance." "So, you decided to humiliate me in front of our friends? Call me insane at my own birthday party? I wasn't trying to humiliate you. Then what were you trying to do, Christiana?" My voice came out harder than I intended. Because, from where I was sitting, watching everyone stare at their plates while my wife told the room I'd destroyed our family, it felt pretty deliberate. She flinched. "I was trying to make you see how serious this was, how scared I was. By packing my suitcase? By telling me to get out by morning?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You gave up on me. You called a therapist behind my back. You told our daughter I needed professional help. You researched extended stay hotels, for God's sake. Because I thought you were sick." Her voice rose. "Every expert I consulted said your algorithm was impossible. Trevor's friend from Goldman, that consultant I hired, even David's brother who lost money on trading bots, they all said the same thing. What was I supposed to think? You were supposed to trust me. Trust you?" She stood up now, color rising in her cheeks. "You drained our retirement without really discussing it. You locked yourself in that study for 18 months. You missed family events. You stopped being present in our lives. And when I tried to talk to you about it, you treated me like I was too stupid to understand your precious mathematics. I never said that. You didn't have to. It was in every explanation you gave. Every time you dismissed my concerns because I didn't understand the correlation. Well, congratulations, James. You were right. You're a genius, and I'm just the wife who doubted you." The sarcasm in her voice cut deeper than I expected. "That's not what this is about," I said. "Isn't it?" She picked up her phone, scrolled through something. "I have 19 missed calls this morning. 19. Everyone wants to know if my husband is the trading genius on the news, if we're really worth $12 million now. Suddenly, everyone believes in you." She looked up at me. "Including me, apparently. So you're sorry because I was right? Because the algorithm worked? I'm sorry because I hurt you." "When?" I pressed. "When did you hurt me? Last night when you called me insane? Or this morning when you saw the number on TV?" She didn't answer, just stood there with tears streaming down her face, holding a phone full of people who suddenly thought her husband was brilliant instead of crazy. "That's what I thought," I said quietly. I walked back to the study and closed the door, leaving her in the living room with her apologies and her 19 missed calls from people who only cared now that I was rich. She's only sorry now that he's rich. If you can't stand fake apologies and gold diggers, hit like and comment real love only to show you're not siding with this behavior. I stayed in the study until noon. Let the calls go to voicemail. Let Christiana sit with the weight of what she'd done now that the scoreboard had flipped. Around 1 o'clock, I heard her in the kitchen. The coffee maker, cabinet doors, the familiar rhythm of her making lunch she probably wouldn't eat. I gave her another hour before I finally emerged. She was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at a sandwich she'd cut into precise triangles but hadn't touched. When she saw me, she straightened, wiped her eyes even though they were already dry. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said before I could speak. "Good." She looked down at her hands. "But I'm asking anyway, not because of the money, because I still love you, James. I was wrong about the algorithm, wrong about how I handled it, but I wasn't wrong about being scared." I pulled out the chair across from her, sat down slowly. 34 years of marriage don't evaporate overnight, even when your wife packs your suitcase and calls you crazy in front of the neighbors. "I'm not leaving," I said finally. "But things are going to be different." She nodded, waiting. "The finances, all of them. I manage them from now on. No joint decisions, no consultants you hire behind my back, no calling our daughter to discuss whether I'm mentally competent." My voice was calm, measured. "You wanted me out of the equation because you didn't trust my judgment. Fine, now you don't get a vote. James." "I'm not finished." I leaned forward. "Last night, you humiliated me because you thought I was wrong. Because the money was gone and everyone agreed I was crazy. But if I'd been wrong, if the algorithm had failed and we'd lost everything, would you have apologized for how you treated me?" She opened her mouth, closed it. We both knew the answer. "I thought so," I said. "So here's what's going to happen. I'm transferring $5 million into a trust for you. Separate. Untouchable. You'll never have to worry about money again, whether you stay married to me or not. I don't want your money." "Yes, you do. Everyone does. That's what last night taught me." I stood up. "I'm paying off the mortgage, setting up college funds for the grandkids. But the rest? That's mine. I earned it by being right when everyone, including you, said I was insane." She was crying now, shoulders shaking. "I'm so sorry." "I know you are, now." I walked to the doorway, paused. I'm taking a few days at the Marriott anyway. Not because you asked me to leave, but because I need to think about whether I want to come back to someone who only believed in me after I proved everyone wrong. I picked up the suitcase from the foyer, still packed, still waiting where she'd left it, and walked out to my car. Behind me, I heard her calling my name, but I didn't turn around. Some apologies come too late, even when they're sincere. James stood up for himself. If you believe everyone deserves respect, regardless of their bank account, subscribe to the channel. Let's build a community that values people, not just profits.